Patricia had once dreamed of marrying John, but now she wanted to divorce him more than anything else. And most importantly, Patricia had no good reason to do so. John was not a drinker, not a cheater, and he never allowed himself to say a harsh word to his wife. He always gave all the money he earned to Patricia. Another woman would have been happy, but Patricia still lacked something. In fact, she was just terribly bored. No emotions, no tumultuous displays of feeling. Everything was calm and ordinary. "Patricia, how can you talk like that?" "Everyone dreams of such a husband," said her friend Helen more than once. "If you're bored, then give birth to a child. You won't get bored with him." "I don't want children from him," Patricia replied. "Do you understand? Look, we have a man working in our company, Tristan. He's handsome, successful, and when he looks at me, my head spins. Tristan is very different, not like my John." But Helen could not understand her friend. She had suffered so much from her ex-husband that even remembering was scary. He was always out having fun, spending all the money he earned on himself and his buddies. Helen had tolerated it for a long time, but one day she couldn't take it anymore and kicked her good-for-nothing husband out the door. Now, she couldn't understand what Patricia lacked with such a perfect husband, but she couldn't change her friend's mind. One evening during dinner, when John was telling Patricia about his day at work, as usual, she suddenly said, "John, I'm tired of living like this. I want a divorce. Do you have someone?" John asked quietly. "No, but I surely will have," snapped Patricia. "I'm sick of everything. I want a bright life filled with emotions, not this dull existence beside you. Look at you. Any other man would have yelled after everything I said, would have destroyed everything here, but you sit quietly." And then, to Patricia's surprise, John stood up, threw off all the food from the table silently, and stepped on the plate with his foot before storming out of the house and slamming the door. Patricia slowly sunk to the floor and cried for some reason. John never came home again, and a few days later, Patricia received her divorce papers in the mail. She was now living a free life, and the first thing she did was seduce Tristan. They spent a couple of nights together, and Patricia, filled with new emotions, decided that she could count on a serious relationship with Tristan. So she firmly decided to take the initiative and surprise him. One evening, Patricia took a bottle of champagne and went to Tristan's house. Her imagination had already conjured up images of a romantic evening with her lover, but when the door was opened by a little girl, Patricia was taken aback. She asked for Tristan, and the girl entered the depths of the apartment shouting, "Daddy?" Tristan appeared from the kitchen, and it was evident that he was cooking something. When he saw Patricia, his face twisted with anger, and he hurled insults at her before slamming the door in her face. Patricia felt terrible. She went outside to gather herself. She was filled with sadness and shame, blaming herself for her foolishness and naivete. The next day, she learned that she had been fired. She tried to explain herself, but no one wanted to listen. She had no choice but to pack her things and leave the office. The last thing she saw as she left was Tristan's sneering face. For the next few months, Patricia struggled to find a job. Eventually, she found a position at a school with a small salary, but she was grateful nonetheless. 2 years passed. Bruce, a night watchman at the school, began to court her. He was from the countryside, lived in a rented studio, and worked at a furniture factory and as a part-time watchman. Flowers and sweets won her over, and soon Bruce moved in with Patricia. However, after settling in, he changed. He often yelled at her, criticized her cooking, and forced her to be frugal, even though he spent most of their money on himself. Patricia tried to kick him out multiple times, but he refused to leave the comfortable and free accommodation. She realized that she was sinking lower and lower. She started to look unkempt and gained weight. Although she was constantly on edge, she didn't enjoy it at all. Then one day, a plump, middle-aged woman showed up at her doorstep, claiming to be Bruce's wife. A serious scandal was brewing, but Patricia was able to push the couple out the door to sort things out without her. In the evening, she changed all the locks, and for the first time in a while, she slept peacefully. She enjoyed a week of tranquility before unexpectedly realizing that she was pregnant with Bruce's child, a baby from that ignorant and rude married man. It was then that she realized how much she missed her kind, calm, and dependable John. Why had she thought she would be better off with someone else? Cursing herself for her foolishness and short-sightedness, she decided to terminate the pregnancy and went to the clinic. While waiting in line, she suddenly saw John. He was standing at the opposite end of the corridor, studying some papers. Patricia was on her way to him when suddenly a pregnant woman came out of the cabinet and kissed John. He hugged her back, and Patricia got angry, recognizing her best friend Helen in that woman. "Oh, you're so mean," hissed Patricia furiously, stepping towards Helen and John. "So, just as I turned my back, you've got your eye on my husband?" John hurriedly steered Helen away from the hysterical ex-wife and said, "Patricia, it's all your own fault." From these words, Patricia jerked as if from a punch. She stood looking after them for a long time and didn't even notice that her turn had long passed. Patricia returned home feeling devastated and unneeded. She could not eat, sleep, or do anything. In the evening, she left the house almost unconscious and wandered toward the nearest bridge. Once at the edge, she was almost ready to open her palms, but someone's voice stopped her. "It's foolish to dispose of your life this way. One must never give up." "What do you know about my life?" shouted Patricia into the void, and saw a man in his 40s come out of the shadows. "It doesn't matter. You're so young and beautiful, and you still have everything ahead of you, not like me." Patricia looked intently at the man and burst into tears. She confessed that she had done many stupid things in life and now found herself pregnant all alone. "Everyone has their own burden. I am barren, for example," replied the man, and walked over to Patricia and put his arms around her. They stood on the bridge, realizing that fate had brought them together. Several years passed, and Patricia and her new husband, whom she met on the bridge, were living happily together and raising a beautiful little daughter. They were happy to have found each other, and Patricia finally learned to enjoy a quiet, peaceful life and appreciate every moment spent with her family.